Welcome, everybody, to episode 21 of Current Status. I'm Pumla Schmidt, one of your hosts. I'm also known as Exchange Goddess on the Twitters, and I'm here with my other co-hosts.
And my name is Melissa Palmer. You can find me on Twitter at vmis33.
And my name is Teresa Miller. You can find me on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect.
And today we have a very special guest who just loves alerts and monitoring. So why don't you tell us about yourself, Leon?
Sure thing. My name's Leon Adato, and I'm head geek at Solarwinds.com. I took the job purely for the title alone. It said, "Do you want to know what the salary?" No, I don't care. I just want the title. I want business cards. I want 1 million of them. And I've been working in monitoring for probably about a decade, a little bit more than that, maybe 12 years. Been in IT for about 27 years. And sort of worked my way up the IT food chain from training to desktop support to server support and into doing monitoring actually in the deep end of the pool for large multinational environments. I think the first monitoring system I put together with a team was 250,000 systems in 5,000 locations across the globe. So nothing like starting big first. And I've been working with Solarwinds toolset since about 2003 and implementing it in different companies, both internally monitoring our own stuff and then also monitoring as an external service. So other people come to the company I was working for and said, "Will you monitor my stuff?" So I've been using it in both of those capacities. And like I said, now I'm head geek at SolarWinds, which gives me a chance to talk a lot about monitoring and just sort of propound on the glory that is the wonderful stuff. And oh, by the way, the company I make makes some cool stuff too. But that's not important for tonight. Really, it's just talking about just the coolness that is monitoring regardless of what software you happen to be using.
So, seriously, that's a really cool title, Head Geek.
Yes. I recommend everyone pick titles that they think describe them best and just have their own business cards made. So, Chief Ideation Officer or, things like that.
Well, I'm Chief Goddess.
Awesome. Chief Goddess.
Yeah, the Chief Goddess.
Right.
I'm going to get cards made up. So, monitoring. I like monitoring. I like alerting, but I think it's all white noise. Like, that's my honest opinion. I think it's great, but you get to a point where you get thousands of messages in your inbox when you wake up, and you just go shift delete, or you create a rule and dump everything in the folder that automatically deletes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's monitoring done wrong. Is really what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Is that even monitoring at that point? It's like
it's white noise, and
right.
So how do you do it right? Because honestly, I get to the point where I'm like, do I really care about these minor alerts? I really don't care that there's a little blip here.
And that's the thing, is if you're asking yourself, do I care? It's still monitoring done wrong, because it should be intuitively obvious. It should be immediately apparent that this thing that I just got is urgently important that I deal with, or at least you know how much you care immediately. So I think the first thing I want to do is I want to define monitoring, because I think the word gets misused, is in the words of Inigo Montoya. That word, I don't think it makes what we think it means. So monitoring is not a ticket, it's not a page, it's not an email. Monitoring is simply the regular, ongoing, steady collection of data and metrics from a set of targets. That's it. Whether it's every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 15 minutes, it's a quick, how you doing? Or the device itself sends you, hey, I'm okay, or whatever it is. That's monitoring, is the collection of data. Alerts, reports, everything else is simply a happy byproduct that you get to have when you've done the first thing. So tonight we're not really talking about monitoring, because I'm working on the assumption that everyone who's listening has a tool that does the monitoring piece. That you're collecting the statistics, and that you're collecting the statistics that you want. Now, granted, that is frequently not what's happening. Sometimes you're not getting the data you want. You're not getting the voice data. You're not getting the NetFlow data. You're not getting the right services on the right boxes. But we're going to pretend for a moment. We're going to close our eyes, and we're going to just imagine a happy place where all the monitoring data that we want is there. So let's talk about alerting, though. Let's talk about that white noise. there's really three major areas that you can think about where alerting goes wrong, and that has to do with the technical aspect of it. There's the initial ask that monitoring engineers don't do typically, and then there's procedural stuff that also doesn't get handled particularly well. So there's these three different areas. And I will talk at length about all of this, so I'm going to stop and let you guys ask questions, because otherwise I will go for the next 2 hours. I'm like, I'll just keep walking in that direction forever.
All right, so I guess, let's say I have all this data, and I have this big pile of data, box of data, bowl of data, whatever. Are there things I need to ask myself to get something useful out of that data?
I mean, definitely. Well, first of all, the question is, the box of data, again, we're assuming that all the information you could ever possibly want is already being collected. So now you have to dumpster dive through that. I've gone from, a bowl in a box to a dumpster. So, we're steadily going down. Right. So this is big data. This is the real big data. So the thing here is that what you have to figure out is, what is the problem I'm trying to catch, or what's the problem I'm trying to solve? So when you have this information coming in, there's a question of triggers. Okay, what's the right trigger for an action? Again, we'll get to what the action is, whether it's an email or it's a report being generated automatically, or somebody walks over and pokes someone else in the shoulder or something. So, but are we triggering on the right condition? I see a lot of alerting where they take sort of knee-jerk, let's alert when memory is at 80%. Okay, newsflash, SQL servers. Yeah, right. SQL servers at 80% by default. I know people are rockstar. I know you're watching, and I know you're screaming at your screen right now. It doesn't have to do that, but it frequently does. So let's alert when CPU is at 90%. This is one of my favorite ones. Every monitoring engineer who gets started in this, and whether they think they're a monitoring engineer or not, does that. Like CPU. Of course, everyone cares about CPU. They want to know when CPU is pegged. And here's the problem: is that if I have I have a less number of jobs in the queue than I have CPUs waiting to handle those jobs, and my CPU is at 80–90%, I call that correctly sized. I call that the right thing, because it's keeping up, man. I haven't overwhelmed my CPU load. It's just that's the time it takes to chug those jobs in there. So the only time I care about CPU is if the CPU is high and the number of jobs is consistently greater than the number of CPUs I have to handle them. So this is what I mean about, you have all this data, right? You know how many CPUs you have on your box. You know how many jobs are in the queue, whether it's Linux or Windows or whatever. You can know that. And you know what the CPU status is at any given time, and you know what that is over time. And that's when I get back to the whole, what is monitoring? Monitoring is not just a moment in time, I'm bad. You want to know what you were 5 minutes before the I'm bad thing happened. You want to know what was an hour before. Was it trending up? Was it trending down? So that you can alert on either a state that's over time, it's been like this for more than 15 minutes or 30 minutes, or it hits that point multiple times in a window, so it hasn't been steady state, but it's propped up there. Or, and this is the real tricky one, the delta. I don't care when my 3 terabyte disk is 90%, because that still gives me like gajumbo amounts of disk. I mean, we're really not in danger here. However, I do care when the disk space jumps by 30%, whatever it is. Whatever 30% is for that disk, that's the delta. Yes?
So everything you've described makes me think about every monitoring project that I've ever either witnessed or been a part of, in that, first of all, the staffing for it is usually very secondary. It fits into other projects. They don't dedicate full-time resources to it. That's one of the issues. But once you finally get that group of people working on it, again, secondary tasks, it's like a 6-month plus project just to get everything fine-tuned so it is useful and it isn't that white noise. Is there any way around that without the right leadership choices? Are there any magic tools? What would you say to how to handle that?
So some tools will do baselining. Some tools will actually tell you this is normal this value is normal for this box on a Tuesday, or just generally.
Right.
So that's the first thing, is if you have a tool that will do internal baselining, because of course, again, what's monitoring? Collection of statistics. If you have them, you know what's normal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, again, alerting is a very conscious choice. So even if you have an army of one who is setting up these alerts, they don't have to immediately send them to your ticket system or to your email inbox, Fumla, or or to whatever it is. Okay, so we just spent. She almost put her spiked heel through my head in the episode of Solarwinds Lab that we were recording, because I said I was going to do that. So you don't have to do that. What you can do is you can send potential alerts either to a log file, to a secondary mailbox, to other things, and then present that to the recipients and say, is this what you would have wanted? That doesn't take a lot of effort at all, actually. And that goes to the procedural piece. So let me jump from triggers. There's a lot we could talk about with triggers. Yep.
So a dashboard, pretty much.
Well, it can be a dashboard. The problem with dashboards is that they're always point in time, and you can never hire enough eyeballs to look at the screen all the time to see when something blinks.
That's why we need direct uplinks into our brains.
Right. Well, you still don't want that, because let's face it, if I had a direct uplink to my brain, no, because I'd be streaming Netflix, watching The Walking Dead, instead of what I should be doing. So that's not necessarily a happy idea. So what you can do is you can put them into, like I said, a log file, and ask the recipient team to review that daily, hourly, whatever, so that you can say, is this the kind of information you want? Once they say, yeah, that catches the event I wanted, then you can start to turn it into alert. But like I said, we're into the procedural. So I want to step sideways for a second and talk about sort of that 6-month project, which does not have to be a 6-month project. That doesn't happen because typically monitoring people. I always prefer it if they're monitoring engineers who are dedicated to the job, but like you said, a lot of times it's, hey, I'm the network guy and I do monitoring. I'm in charge of all the Exchange servers and I also monitor them, or whatever. So there's 4 questions. I'm Jewish, and so I'm always fascinated with the 4 questions that you can ask, or that can be asked, to help you focus in on it. So the first one is, how do you know when this problem is happening? The worst kind of monitoring projects are when the tool comes with a set of default alerts, and some well-meaning, perhaps under-intelligent individual at high levels, I'm trying not to insult anybody who's listening, but would say, yeah, turn them all on.
Oh,
I've
had that happen.
So this happens in one environment and it never happens in the other, and I worked in both. Remember I said that I worked for monitoring internally. We monitor our own stuff, and I also worked as a service. If you are charging somebody $15 per box per day, plus a $3 surcharge for every alert that you send out, they don't want anything on except what's most essential. Now, it's really hard to do that inside a company. It's really hard to say, I'm going to charge you fake money for the... But if you can find some way to quantify the effort of turning on an alert so that you avoid that turn everything on knee-jerk reaction, that's your first step to avoiding, piles of noise and all these alerts that you don't want. The second thing is, so you ask, how do you know when this is happening? Because typically that's the right way to monitor it automatically. Then the next question is, what are you going to do when you get an alert? And this is really important, because frequently I'll ask somebody, okay, so what are you going to do when you get the alert? Oh, nothing. I like to know. Okay, no. I'm thinking, no, I'm not in the business of FYI here.
Because
yeah?
I'm going to say that there's quite a few handful of sysadmins out there that get the alerts just to get the alerts, and I'm going to say probably 100% of them probably all put them in their deleted items.
Right. And
right.
If the answer
I'm guilty.
If the answer is I'm not going to do anything about it, then either what you really want is a report, because
that's a really good point.
You justifiably want to know that whatever it is, happened, right?
Yeah,
I want to know.
I want to know if it's dead. When it's dead or it's about to die, that's what I want to know.
Right.
Minor alerts, I don't care.
Or maybe you want to report once a week with here's all the little things that went on, just FYI.
But if you're dead, I want to know if you're dead.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
have to bring you back.
Oh, I always tell people, as a monitoring engineer, job number 1 is to tell you the plane crashed. Job number 2, that's job number 2. Job number 1 is to tell you that the plane's at 30,000 feet, but it's nose down 45 degrees. Someone go wake the pilot. Like he's taking a nap. So that's what I really want to do. And then all the other things about, seat number 43 is a little bit chilly. Yeah, you don't want to know that. So
No.
Nobody really wants to know that. There are things that people want to know as an FYI, but that's not what an alert is. And I think frequently people work by alerts. I was at one company where uptime was calculated as 100% minus the number of tickets.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Really? Yeah. Major bank.
I think I'm need a drink for that.
So did they have like a playbook then for their alerts, or was it just very random?
It was it was just bad. It was just bad. It was just bad thinking. So what are you going to do about it is a question that helps filter out the nothing, or what you get, which is more useful, is I don't do anything on the first email I get, but by the time I get the 4th email in half an hour, that's when I do something. Well, tell you what, how about I send you a 1 alert when this thing has happened 4 times in half an hour? How about I do that for you?
Because you're not paying attention to that 4th email anymore.
Well, not only that, but so there was a situation at one of my previous companies where the exchange team was getting 80 alerts a day.
You can't bust an exchange.
I wasn't busting an exchange.
But how would you feel about 80 alerts a day? You probably wouldn't really look. I wouldn't look at them. I'd be like, delete, whatever.
I get more than that.
Gosh.
I only care if it's dead. Right. Tell me when it dies.
So we changed the alerting. We changed tools, and we changed the alerting, and we dropped it down to 8 messages a week. Now, they were still getting 8 alerts a week, but you know what? When they got an alert, they knew it meant something. They knew that when they got the alert, it was time to get the hell out of bed and jump on their computer because it meant it then. It wasn't just a fake. It wasn't just a whatever. So by reducing the noise, you get everyone to respond in a more, in a more significant way. And again, the what are you going to do about it question helps drive it there. Another thing that helps avoid. Okay, so I'm saying you're the monitoring person now, part-time or full-time. What's the cost to you, the company, whatever, if you don't get this alert? Like, what happens if you don't get this alert? And sometimes what you hear is, it's really good because then we save like 5 minutes. Or what? I mean, you get this really small return, and almost always those are the ones where the alert logic is like 8 miles long, and it takes you 3 months to develop, and you realize there's no return on the investment for this. Whereas other alerts are like, okay, so this system, I'm not making up this number, this system between the hours of 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock generates $167,000 per minute. Do you think you could keep it from crashing during that time? Yeah, I think I could move heaven and earth to make sure that happens. But here's the thing. Every time I cut an alert for that system during that hour, I keep track of that on a report, and I go back to management, and I tell them, okay, so this one alert saved us $250,000 this month. Do you think I could have some more toys, please? Now the answer is frequently no. But the idea is that if you get the recipient to quantify what the cost is, cost in hours, cost in heartache, cost in real dollars and cents lost, then you have 2 things. First of all, they've told you how important it is, and you can figure out how to spend your time. And B, you can now take that report I was talking about and start to quantify the value that monitoring is generating for you. So it makes it more worth it. And it goes back to your comment about, not full-time. Well, when you start to say, hey, look, our monitoring is saving us, is avoiding this cost of whatever, do you think we could get some staff in here? It starts to build a story. And then the last of the questions is how often you think it's going to happen. Because, Boomla, to our conversation from Solarwinds Lab, where you were saying that, it could be a little alert, but if it happens, 300 times a day, and it goes out to 50 people each time it happens, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah. And then you'll get angry, me after you.
Right, exactly. But there's also like, wait a second, and I've had that. I've said that, oh, yeah, we get about 100 of these a day. Wait, what happens 100 times per day that you're okay with?
We're just testing alert. We're just testing something. But you said 1,000 in like 5 minutes.
Right, and that goes back to like don't send it to email and all those things.
Yeah.
So those are the questions that you should be asking either of yourself or of your other team members, or if you are a monitoring engineer of the other teams. That helps focus the conversation and focus your work. And then you get to the procedural piece, which is also avoiding that how do I dig through this dumpster of data? First of all, again, clearly define the condition you're trying to catch. Pumala, you said, I want to know when it's dead. Oh, what?
She's dead.
You want to know when it's dead. She's
Yeah.
dead, right. I want to know it's dead. I don't care when anything else happens. I just want to know it's dead. That'll also help save you from false positive. It's feeling bad. It had something to eat that doesn't agree with it. Like, no, I don't care about that. We have servers that run hot, right? We have reporting servers or whatever. Like, I don't care if this thing is spiked to 99%. I just want to know when it's zero, like when it's gone. Also, who receives the alert? I find frequently, now this is maybe as a monitoring engineer more than as something else who does monitoring, but I find that developers love to create alerts that the ops people never want.
Yeah.
And I've gotten into said the ops person. So I've taken to asking who is going to receive this alert, and they say, oh yeah, people on ops, and then I'll loop them in on the call or whatever, and I'm like, oh hell no.
They don't want it.
I will key your car if you turn this on. Like, I don't.
So I worked somewhere that used a really I'm not going to say the word. It was a really actually great approach. Remember the playbook comment I made?
Mm-hmm.
They sat down with each team and made each team, so like the Exchange team, the Citrix team, the DBAs, Unix, etc., and they had to decide what were the most valuable alerts to them, and those were the only alerts that they were going to get alerted on. And there was a playbook that the operations team had then. This is what will open a ticket. This is what you need to call me in the middle of the night for. This is what you can wait till morning for. And it was probably one of the best approach systems that I ever was a part of. It was really, really fabulous.
That sounds neat. I mean, just because
Yeah.
I hate senseless emails and, the server rebooted. Okay.
That's me. I don't care.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
So you actually just hit the next.
Good.
You actually just hit the next thing. After you make sure that the people who are getting the alert, whatever it is, want it. Then the people who asked for it, they have to come up with what to do about it. What are you going to do when you get this? Oh, nothing. Okay, sorry, I don't get paid by the bushel. No, you don't get to do that. And you have to write it up, and it has to be in a knowledge base or whatever. It has to be a documented procedure. When you get this alert, do this. Now, if the one thing that you do when you get this alert is call Bob, then I guess that's your procedure, and I guess Bob's going to like it, But you got to have.
But as long as Bob had a choice in that matter,
Yes.
then that's the right action.
Right, exactly. So
How did Bob join the conversation?
he's my neighbor Bob. So as long as Bob's okay with it, if that's your procedure, fine. It's kind of crappy, but the idea is that if you're getting this, write up what's going to happen or what the logic tree is, what the branching logic is. And again, the people who get it have to look at that procedure and say, I understand this. I know what's going on here. Then the next thing after that is make it happen. The number of times that I get developers who say, I want to look for error code number 573/3. Great, make it happen. Oh, I can't. It's in the guide that it says it's going to happen. Okay, if you can't make it happen, I'm not alerting on it because I guarantee you that is not the right number. I guarantee you the error message isn't that. There's some little tweak. Now, there are certain cases when make it happen isn't an option. I'm doing an alert for when the temperature in the data center goes above 60 degrees. Hey, George, can you light a fire over there? No. But what you can do is change your threshold and say that I want to alert when the temperature is 1 degree instead of 80 degrees or whatever.
But see, maybe it's different with the data center. If the data center is at 80 degrees,
right.
I think you'd want to know.
Right, exactly.
At 90 degrees, people should be jumping out of their beds going, why is my data center 90 degrees?
Right.
106 degrees, you should be in your data center with, fans and,
Halon should have gone off by then.
Yes.
So,
I've been in situations where we've had data centers hit 106 degrees and alarms are going off, servers were literally going, help me. save me.
The
Yeah.
plastic's melting off the front, and right.
Yeah, it's like, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the alerts were sort of working, weren't working. They were ignored first, and yeah,
Right.
just a bad situation, and that was white noise.
Right. So because all the other alerts weren't meaningful, and therefore you just it was crying wolf. So the idea there is that you want to test the alert first to make sure it works, to make sure the error message you're getting, or that the number that you're getting, or the value you're reading is the right value. And again, you can test that by changing the thresholds to be something ridiculously low. Because you don't really want to spike the server to 90%. But you can trigger when it's 1% and make sure the message says the server CPU is at 1%. And that's telling the truth, and then you set the threshold correctly or to what you think it is. And then if you want to be really, really hardcore, then what you do is you say, this is still in test mode, which means it goes to a log file or whatever it is, until we see it in the wild. Again, not the data centers on fire. But for a lot of alerts, for a lot of them, you can actually look back and say, until this actually happens one time for real, we're not making this a production alert. It's hardcore, and you've got to have, sort of the huevos behind you to do it, but you can do it. And then the last piece, which everyone always forgets, is automation. What are you going to do when this happens? Oh, well, I clear the temp directory and then I check these. How about I clear the temp directory automatically and I check it, and in the message of the ticket you get, I say I cleared the temp directory and check this, and the values for that are blah blah blah. And even better is I do the automation and then I wait one more cycle, and if the condition hasn't cleared, then you get a ticket. Now some people say, no, that's where they do want to know. They want a ticket, but they want a ticket that's actually in a resolved state. And that depends on your ticketing system, if you can do that. If you have that two-way conversation between your monitoring, alerting system and your ticketing system, that you can open a ticket and then, if it resolves on the monitoring side, send another message to that same ticket number and say, this one's resolved, not closed. A human being still needs to look at this, but it's turned itself back around. So that's another piece of it. But people always ignore the automation, and there's money left on the table when they forget that. I've seen.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of organizations not use that, and they should.
There's one company with just simple disk alerts, right? Disk is full. Okay, let's clear the temp directory and see what happens. They reduced their number of tickets on disk alerts by 200%.
Wow.
Which is humans not responding to things and doing other things like binge watching Walking Dead or whatever it is, right? So yeah,
That's impressive.
It really can have an enormous impact. The same thing for service restarts. Another big time suck.
Yes, because you get that ticket and then you have to go restart the service. You're like, oh no, not the stupid service restart ticket again. You got to go do it.
Restart the print services on that damn Citrix server. Yeah.
Right. So if you're monitoring it, typically if a monitoring system, if a tool is monitoring it, it also has the authority to go restart it. So you should be doing that. You should be saying, I'm watching these services. These are important. I really mean it. But if they stop, start them. And if they don't start back up again, now I want to get a human being involved. And again, money left on the table. People could be spending their whole life doing other important things, and they don't, because people aren't using automation really well.
No, that's a great way to use automation right there.
So, and a lot of them are simple. I mean, really, again, service restarts, clearing disk space, flushing the application pool on IIS servers. I could spend my whole life doing that, and it's so simple. It's such an easy command, whether you're doing it in PowerShell or you're doing it with an API or whatever. And it's detectable. It's very simple, and and the users, the people who are on the web server, don't need to know that it happened. It's not like everyone gets kicked out or whatever. It's really simple. So there's a lot of simple automation actions, but you have to ask. As the monitoring person, you have to say, what are you going to do? I'm going to do X. Oh, I bet I could write a script for that, and then go do that. So those are the procedural things, and all those things, the questions that help you focus those, the alerts that you actually are creating. And then the procedural of making sure all the right people are agreeing to it and you've tested it and all that stuff help to avoid what you're all talking about, which is, the noise that makes you hate monitoring and think it sucks and it's useless and it just, somebody put it in because some executive somewhere got their jollies off of it, or they were able to check something on the HIPAA, checklist or whatever.
It was
I've heard
in
it all.
CIO magazine last month. I had to do it.
Right.
I saw it at a conference.
Because PC Novice doesn't exist anymore, or I think it became CIO Magazine. I loved PC Novice. Every time an issue came out, I could guarantee that I would get 4 requests of something from upper management. So anyway, I love bashing management. It's so much fun. So that's alerts. But again, we have our happy place of all the data. We have the alerts coming in, and we've streamlined them so that everyone's happy about what I call the poke in the shoulder, the things that wake them up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But there's more, because there's a lot of stuff that we've just taken off the table and said, well, that's not an alert, and that's not an alert. But that doesn't mean it's not important. And that's where reports come in. A report is that trend idea. Now, a report can also be like, you're going to run out of disk space in a month at this rate. But it can also be, as we talked about earlier, just tell me all the little things that happened over the last week. Here are the tickets. Here are the tickets I didn't open, but I might have. Here are the number of times that the thing browned out. Was it 80%, not 90%, or whatever it is? Those are reports, and most monitoring tools worth their salt are able to do custom reporting. It might require that you know a little bit of SQL. Usually it doesn't. Usually you can do like little pickers and drag and drops and things like that. And you can create reports. And the nice part about reports is that usually you can schedule those to be delivered. So once you've done the grunt work of creating the report, you set your recipient and say, every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, deliver to these 5 people. Now, the downside to that of reports, and displays fall in the same category. I can create a display. It's very pretty. It's typically for upper management or the NOC. Like, those are the 2 people who consume displays.
Yep.
The NOC wants to see the big board just so they can look at a glance and see things. And there's some really cool things you can do with displays. But when, I hate to say it, sorry for everyone who's in management who's listening to this, I do apologize, but you guys are the culprits, is that they're the ones who say, yeah, but it wasn't down for that long, so I don't want it to be red on this report because it was only down for a little bit, and it didn't really matter because it was only down at 2 o'clock, so I need that to be green. But it was down. But it wasn't really down, it was just down. I mean, this is the conversation that you actually get into with people, and so you end up in the situation that I affectionately call painting the roses green, where
the server wasn't really dead. It was half dead.
It was mostly dead. It was right.
3/4 dead.
To Blave. Yeah, it's
dead to me.
It's not dead, right. So the hard part about that is, A, making sure that you are collecting the right data to show on the report, that if it's, that people agree that, if you're going to show uptime, uptime is defined as, from 3 separate sources, or, I mean, the calculations can get pretty complex, especially if you have somebody who says that, it wasn't really down, it was just down. But reports are a good way to get information to people where the alert isn't appropriate, as long as you don't end up in that situation where they don't, you're giving them the data doesn't lie, but it doesn't always tell the story that they are comfortable telling to people. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. So those are reports. And then I mentioned before, displays. Now, displays are really useful. The hard part is that, again, typically management gets really caught up on the display, and they have it open on their desk all the time, and they just like stare at it, and they're like making googly eyes at it, and
it's a dashboard. That's what it is.
And they can be incredibly informative.
It's pretty graphics, because bashing on executives again. Executives want that overall. They want that high level picture. They want the red, the green, the yellow, and the orange flashing, because it looks like somebody's being productive. Honestly,
it smells like productivity. I love it.
It smells like wow! I've got these. Everything's flashing green. Everything's it's red. My people aren't working hard enough. I'm sorry, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, so dashboard, that's the evil side of dashboards. And sometimes they're a necessary evil. Sometimes you just, you need to have it. The good side of dashboards is, like I said, the knock center that needs to be able to look at a glance, and they have, 15 monitors, and they really can't be flipping from screen to screen. So being able to give them a way to have a status at a glance. There's also, the other thing about dashboards is that it is a great way to consolidate information from multiple tools or multiple modules into one place. For example, I want to have a picture of the most important link for this application. Okay, so from remote site to DMARC to the WAN link with the % utilization to the core site into the data center. Like, I want to watch that link. I want to be able to see how that every point along the way, all the interfaces and all the boxes are doing, and I want to see that. And then next to it, I also want all of the config change messages that are going in. I want to be able to look up and at a glance see that, oh, the link is down, and wait, somebody just put a change on that router.
That would be so great.
So it exists. It can happen. It really, so I want, oh, there's a config change. Okay, fine. And then you can see, like,
look at everything broke after it. What do you know?
Right.
What did you do? What did you
Interesting.
do? Who changed it? What changed?
Right. So the config change panel, the syslog changes, because syslog, as noisy as it is, if you have good filtering for that, you can see the syslog messages that matter. Then you can also get, let's roll in NetFlow. Because NetFlow, along with QoS monitoring, will tell you the top conversations and how much bandwidth is being used and using what protocol. And again, this is all at a glance for this one application. So you can see that for this application, this is the bandwidth, being used per protocol or per top talker or from point to point or whatever. So the idea is that you can pull from multiple, you can get, like Wireshark, get timings so that you can know whether the network is the problem or the application is the problem. Because the user's going to say it's slow. And we're going to ignore the ones that are wrong or lying. Okay, let's say that the user is honest and it's slow, and it really is slow. Okay, but the question is it because your network is, something's bottlenecked in the network, or is it because the server is not handing out the data fast enough? And there's a way to know that with monitoring. There's a way to know that automatically with monitoring, but you have to have a way to look at it. So the idea is that a dashboard can conceivably show all those things at once, even better if it's interactive. I know we talked about the knock, and typically the knock screens are not particularly interactive. They can't really, like, grab a mouse and drag it up there and do things. But even better when that view is interactive, where they can click on that config change and see, oh, they changed this line, and they changed the bandwidth statement from 10 megabit to 1 megabit. No wonder there's an issue. Like, oh, okay. So you can see that it changed. You have the chance to reverse the change, because, again, anything that can monitor can typically also change, so that you have a chance to reverse it. So that's the good side of displays, is where you can pull bunches of relevant information to a particular topic and put it in one place. And I think that's key. When people say, I can get your site at the top Google search. The top Google search for what? I mean, if you're looking for, like, hamster breeders, I don't think I want my bicycle shop showing up on the top of that.
Oh, gosh.
So, displays are the same thing. It's not going to show you the state of all that is. It's going to show you, it can do a real good job of showing you the state of a particular topic. That means you're going to have multiple displays.
Well,
but again, sorry?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So just to wrap up that thought, the point is that the alerting is the poke in the shoulder that tells you to go look at the display and go investigate it. And that's how those two things end up relating.
Thank you. Well,
you're welcome.
It is 11 o'clock, and our time is just about up. But I do want to do a shameless little plug for us. If you want to talk more, or you want to see more about monitoring, there is this little, show that's going on next week that
Yes.
I just happen to be in. Yeah, I just happen to be in. It's
lab.solarwinds.com.
I didn't think about that for a little bit.
There we go.
But it's a pretty fun episode. There is high heels.
And an Orthodox Jewish guy, in a tutu.
Yes, possibly.
You really don't get to see that very often.
No, you don't. Possibly some shoe throwing. There's some wine too.
Right.
So, yeah. I actually had a great time filming in Austin. So I do want to thank Solarwinds for inviting me down and all the head geeks. It was a great time. So hopefully we can do it again. So that was our shameless plug.
There we go. We had a blast. I mean, honestly, we had a blast. You were, incredible to work with. Just so everyone knows, on this show, Pulma's a natural, and normally we film things in very short segments, 10 minutes. And she got on a roll, and we did, I think it was 25 minutes of just technical talk all at once. The whole thing just flew by. It was the longest segment we have ever filmed in one shot. So, it was really it was incredibly impressive. So I'm in awe. You showed us all up.
Thank you. I had a great time.
So where can viewers find out some more information about this show next week? Are we going to tweet about it, or?
We'll definitely be tweeting about it. Lab.solarwinds.com is where the show will be. It's going to be live streaming from there. There's going to be a live chat. It's at 1 o'clock Central Time, so for those of us who are Eastern Time, that's 2 o'clock, on Wednesday, June 3rd. And so you can sign up and register there, and then you can get updates and things like that. And then you can also, hear from me, at Leon Adato on Twitter. And also, I'm quick plug for thwack.com. It's the Solarwinds. It's actually not just the Solarwinds. It's just the monitoring community where you can talk about lots of tools and lots of things that have to do with monitoring and how to cut down the noise. And also, there's an incredible amount of stuff that we give away. There's a monthly giveaway, every month that's like quadcopters and runabouts and amazing stuff. And then we also have like Snuggies.
Are you giving away unicorns at all, or kangaroos?
We have to talk to Daniel Higgins, but there's been talk about lots of other things like unicorns and
I want a kangaroo.
Wine glasses. My daughter's requested an otter. She also wants a onesie. She wants to get a SolarWinds onesie for my granddaughter. So there's lots of stuff, but it's a good community to get into, and you find out about stuff like Lab from there as well.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. I guess that's a wrap. Thank you again, Leon, and ladies. I guess that's episode 21. Yep. We can close for the night. Wow.
Thanks, Leon.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. This was amazing.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again next time.